Hello and welcome to this latest edition of Seat to Street, and I'm delighted to say that today we're joined by Lol Wood, who's our Growing Younger enabler for children and families and who is battling a summer cold courtesy of Children at the Mothers Union Rydal Hall funday. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, that is.
All right. Well, thanks so much for battling on, Lol.
Sorry.
And I know you've warned us that you've got a very deep voice as a result of this.
Very deep.
Okay, so just begin by telling us a little bit about your background.
So I grew up in Southport, which I think a few people in this diocese have grown up in Southport, so I'm not alone in that. My family's history is we're Moravian Christians, so I grew up with that background of inclusion, social justice ethos, I suppose. But in Southport, there wasn't a Moravian church. So we went to a Methodist church for a bit, and then we went to an Anglican church, and we tried both for a while, settled in the Anglican church, didn't love the Sunday school. So actually, my sister and I opted to go to Evensong. So we were the ones who were like, actually, we'd like to do church with adults. We were quite unique in that, I think. But that's where it all began for my faith development. Okay. And then after that, I went to uni. And at university, I joined the Chaplaincy Centre. I went to Lancaster Uni. And what drew me there was, if I'm honest, they did free food. Really good food after the service, like a full-course meal. And as a student, that was a priority. And then as I got there, what I learned was the value of faith around changing the world even more. Again, the social justice element came into it. But what I loved was it was an ecumenical place where every student was empowered to take a role in church. And I think that was really key for me for developing my understanding of being one body of Christ in church together. So that was a really foundational point for me.
And then what drew you into children and youth ministry?
Well, if I'm honest, I fell into it. So I did English literature degree, and then I got quite poorly. I've got juvenile arthritis, and I was going to go on and be a teacher. I got in for PGCE, but I was too ill. I wasn't able to walk for a while. And so in the end, I became a student chaplaincy assistant at Lancaster University for 1 year only. But I loved it. I loved working with students and helping them develop their faith and being around all their curiosity and questioning. And that led me on to go into other ministry. So I did another year at another university, Keele, as a chaplaincy assistant. Then I went into pastoral ministry, which took me into working with troubled teens and visiting a lot of people in hospital. And I eventually landed in youth and children ministry in a church in West Yorkshire, where I was in charge of 0 to 18, but also a little bit of young adults as well. And that was where I really began to see how important it was to engage the whole family unit if you wanted a child's faith to stick. And off the back of that, I then came to Cumbria and started with the family project in Kirby before this role.
Right. So last March, the Diocese was awarded £6.8 million by the Church of England nationally to help Cumbrian churches grow missional, younger and more diverse communities. And we've called that the Cumbrian Way. How does your role influence that?
So my role is focusing on growing children and families' faith in people who wouldn't normally attend time-honoured church, but who are curious and wanting to know more and explore faith in a way that works for them. So I enable children and family mission across the whole of Cumbria, but also with a focus of enabling that exploration of faith by hopefully supporting people on the ground in creating what we're calling new worshipping communities. So it involves people who've never come to church before. They've got to have an element of worshipping Jesus Christ, and that is kind of with the hallmarks of mission. So, prayer, praise, sacrament, acts of service and scripture. And then worshipping in the sense of also obviously connecting to God and a deeper understanding of God via the scripture. And then it has to be regular community meetings, whether that's online or in person. We're saying actually once a month is a minimum for growing that sense of church as a whole. So that's what my role does.
Okay, so you've been post for about 6 months now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I know you've given an overview there, but are there any particular areas that you've been focusing on particularly?
So I actually started the role by doing a mapping exercise, and I did that partly because I wanted to know fully what was out there. I actually emailed every single church in Cumbria, which took a lot of time, just to see where things were already happening, where shoots were growing. And off the back of that, I could say, actually, this area hasn't got this, or, this target age. So, for example, some areas don't have a lot of toddler groups. I can go, this area, we need to help support them think through why they don't have toddler groups and what we could do to change that. So currently I'm following up a few. At the minute I'm looking at places where they've reached out to me, first of all, but I've also connected with a few who are beginning the process of going, actually, we'd like something, but we're not sure what. So I'm
Mm,
helping them think through how to do a listening exercise in the local community,
mm,
because we're really keen that whatever begins is needed and is sustainable. So
mm,
from the off, I always encourage everyone to talk to loads of local people you wouldn't normally talk to, and ask the questions of what is it that would intrigue you to consider engaging in faith. So that's what I'm doing at the minute. I'm supporting people who are doing that sort of listening exercise.
And as part of that listening exercise, which is a vital thing, isn't it? Because that you're hearing them back, the voices on the ground
Yeah.
that can be really informative. What are the kinds of challenges that you're hearing about as a result of that?
That's a really good question. I think from the people who are trying to start something, the challenge has been a mixture of volunteers. That is often a common thing, volunteers and volunteers' confidence. So sometimes it's a case of they have the volunteer, but the volunteer feels like they've never done this before and they don't know what to do. So it's partly why I've also started to look at bringing in some workshops, some training that will hopefully provide a little bit more of that confidence and guidance of what to do, what the next steps will be. I think the other thing is a lot of communities do have a lot of things happening that aren't related to faith. So it's about finding that sweet spot of what is the missing time, or the time where families really could do with something, maybe base it around food. That's always a good one. So it's also a case of being prepared to wait it out to find the right time to start something. And that takes a lot of courage, I think.
So it's in essence, it's about helping empower people, isn't it?
Yeah, my whole job is about empowering and enabling. And it is a real privilege to do that, because I'm working with people who have had a committed Christian faith for years, and some people who have done other work with children and families who are bringing that wisdom, and particularly wisdom around babies, which is something that I'm still learning about. So yeah, it's a fantastic role. I feel like we're working and learning together, and I think that's what I'd encourage everybody to do, because the more we work and learn together, the more likely we are to get it right in
Mm.
how we connect with new people.
And by the same token, you must be hearing about lots of exciting mission that's
Yeah.
going on with children and families too. Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, so Bubble Church has become quite a thing around Cumbria this last year. Started in Staveley in Cumbria, but is spreading around the diocese slowly. And I think it is a really good thing to see happen, because they've clearly got those hallmarks of mission and worship in them. And it is bringing people who wouldn't normally engage in church. Something about it being only 20, 22 minutes long, I think, has been right for the audience. But it's really clear in how it approaches scripture, worship, and even to do with the concept of giving, something that they mention easily, which is something a lot of places struggle, because we want to be seen as a generous church, where actually I know and you know that giving is part of discipleship. So that's been wonderful to see. Another thing that's bubbling up is something called BlockCraft Church, which we've had a few workshops on and online sessions about. And that involves connecting again with people who wouldn't enter time on a church, but people who have a real keen interest in building online, building in person. And I particularly love that one, because it's about shaping a service with whoever turns up on the day. So it allows everyone to tap into their element of play and creativity, which I believe is deeply holy. But it is engaging with new folk, people who are really scared often entering church, but having an element of online that they know about is a comfort. So they come along, and the stories and things I've seen across other areas of the UK where they've put this on, it's often been one member of the family who's really keen, often the younger child, and has dragged their whole family to it. So it's also that element of children teaching the faith to adults, which I love. I think a lot of children naturally have a wisdom and a deep understanding of who God is. And I think BlockCraft Church does that really well.
It's about us, isn't it? Meeting people in the arena in which they're comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've got to remember that it's more than one generation now that hasn't regularly attended church. So they don't often have even an idea of what a church service looks like. Whereas if we can offer something that they know, it's just easier. They feel more confident about attending. So yeah, it's really key.
That's great. Now, one area in particular that you focused on, I know, is building up a children and families network or volunteers and workers. Why is that so important?
Well, Lawrence Bash and I have set this up under Andy Smith actually a long time ago. We've always had a network of around 30 really fantastic people who've committed to coming along. We've grown that a lot more. Currently we're at 67, which is fantastic. It's really important, I think, because often these people's ministry goes unseen, a lot of its background, but without them we wouldn't be having the engagement of children and families. And so there's an element where they could feel quite lonely or unseen. And I think that does matter. You know, everyone, particularly children, but adults too, need to feel that they matter and what they're doing is valued. And I'm really keen for them to know that. But also when they gather together, what I see happen is that people exchange ideas. And, you know, if someone comes along with, oh, I'm struggling with this, normally someone in the group has had similar struggles. So together there's the peer-to-peer support that also enables ministry to go further and be more successful. So it's lovely. And we try and make it also a place where they can share and confide. Because sometimes you can't tell, you know, other people in church the things that you're worrying about. But here they can do that. And we try and make it a mixture of teaching, sharing ideas, support, and adding in a little bit of rest. Because often, in my experience, children and family leaders, whether they're paid or unpaid, they don't rest. They're constantly thinking of ideas or what we could do next, even on holiday. So we're trying to encourage them to pause, reflect, slow down, take the time to hear God. And if we can do that as a group, that's fantastic.
That's great. Well, we've actually been out to meet some of the people who are involved in that network. So let's hear now from Sue Shaw, who's from St Luke's Clifton, who's talked to us about the Friday Club for primary school aged pupils that she runs.
My name's Sue, and I'm from St Luke's Church at Clifton, which is a very small village church. We have a small congregation, but we cover two villages, Little Clifton and Great Clifton. And there's not a lot of things going on for children in either village, really. Especially in Great Clifton, we've had a bit of trouble with disruptive behaviour and so on. And so we run a Friday club, which is for children of primary school age. It's been going a while, actually, in some form or other, but it keeps sort of fading off and then reviving. And we've been running it now for a couple of years with a few volunteers from the Methodist Church and from St Luke's Church that help to run it. And it fluctuates. Sometimes we get 12, 15 children coming in. Sometimes we get 3. But they enjoy themselves. They play table tennis, they play snooker, and have some fun. And then we have a Bible story. We introduce them to Jesus. And a lot of them don't know Jesus. They don't know anything about him. But that's something that we hope to rectify. And they have a snack and a bit more play. And then off they go. And we see them every couple of weeks. It's a great little club, and we want to grow it. We want to grow God's kingdom in Clifton, basically.
Fantastic. And so how does the Children and Families Network you've come to today help with that?
Okay, so I got in touch with Lol because she's the growing younger enabler, because I was hoping that we might sort of pick up some ideas and work with each other to bounce ideas off each other, you know, as to things that we can do with the children and families in order to, you know, make our little group better.
So Lol, people like Sue are really important, aren't they?
Really important. Sue has spent a lot of time in her community, and she knows all the local families, knows their lives, their backgrounds, and she's a massive asset to the church because she continually thinks about and prays for these local families and is really invested in their children and how their faith develops. She's a real encourager, and she takes the wisdom of children really seriously. So yeah, she's a huge value.
So as you look to the future and growing younger, what will you be focusing on?
I will be focusing particularly on the places where currently there isn't a lot happening. Often it's lack of confidence, as I was saying earlier. So those are places where we will hopefully look at doing even more support, workshops and things like that. Because we want it to be a case that everywhere in Cumbria has something for your child to attend that will enable them to explore God and develop their own sense of faith. So that will be my long-term goal. More immediately, I'm looking at putting on in October something called Refresh course with the fabulous Andrea Mason, because we want to ensure that those who are starting with the babies and toddlers are doing so with a commitment to discipleship to the whole family from the start. So that'll be my immediate next thing that we're going to look at.
So you're going to be busy.
Yeah, I like being busy though. It's hard.
Good. It's a good job. It's a good job. And bear in mind, you've got all that business ahead of you. The final question is, what would you like people to pray for in terms of your ministry?
Oh, it's a good question. I think prayer to ensure that I continually take space to listen to God. I think in the busyness, it's easy to forget to pause and do that. So prayer around that be really welcome. I think also prayer for the places where things aren't quite happening, that somebody or a group of people pop up that I can connect with and get to know. Because I think, like everything, the experts are the people on the ground. So it all is reliant on me connecting with those key people. So prayer that those people appear will be really welcome.
That's great. Well, look, Lol, it's been absolutely great to speak to you. Well done for battling through with your summer cold.
Okay.
And thanks so much for taking the time out to join us.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.